everybody, this video is going to be the last of the showcase or overview videos for the Hourglass silhouette underbust corsets made by Timeless Trends. So today I'm going to be comparing 4 different standard length underbust corsets from Timeless Trends. This one is the oldest version. This one is from about mid 2011. And beside me, you're going to see a few other corsets like the white dyeable cotton underbust, also before the revamp or the redesigned Hourglass silhouette. That one is from about 2014. And then 2 versions of the new Hourglass silhouette corsets in black leather and also in the blue floral brocade. And let's see how well I can sync this up. So here's the front, the side, the back, and the other side. The center front of this corset is about 12 inches, and at the princess seam here, from under the bust to the top of this hip here, this is about 9 or 9.5 inches. In terms of the circumferential measurements, I'm wearing a size 24, as I am for all the other corsets I'm reviewing today. And so the ribcage of this one is about 30 inches and the hips are about 32 inches. So the measurement of the underbust of this corset is fairly similar to the redesigned corsets, but you can see that the silhouette is completely different. It has a very smooth shape. So it feels a little bit more conical through the ribs here, and it also gradually expands over the hips. The lower edge here at the iliac crest is about 32 inches in this corset. So the 2011 style corsets had a rib spring of about 6 inches and a hip spring of about 8 inches. The white cotton dyeable underbust was released in mid-2014, so it had the most recent pattern before the redesign in 2015 to the Hourglass silhouette corsets. The center front length here is still 12 inches, but you can see that as it moves over the side of the corset, it's actually cut much longer from the waist to bottom edge. So whereas in the older stock corsets that came out in 2010, 2011, they were actually cut to be above the iliac crest, this one actually covers it by a tiny bit. My iliac crest is right there, so it's probably covering it by about a half an inch or so. This was in response to customer requests to have the corset be a little bit longer over the sides of the corset so that it would cover more of their lower tummy pooch. But you can also see that over time the corset has evolved to be less dramatic in curve. So this is again a size 24 corset. The rib cage measured 28 inches and the hip measured about 31 inches. So instead of the 6-inch rib spring and 8-inch hip spring before, this has a 4-inch rib spring and about a 7-inch hip spring. This leather underbust was one of the samples that we made in Thailand to test out how different fashion fabrics behaved with the new curvier pattern. So this actually does have the same measurements as the final piece, the final Hourglass pattern underbust corsets. There are a few differences that you might notice right away. Lengthwise, it's actually a little bit shorter. We actually took off some at the top edge here. So it no longer has that really dramatic point. It's now a really soft curve edge here. So it's not going to poke out underneath your clothing. So what had happened was when they lengthened the corset at the bottom edge, they didn't lengthen the bones as well, so it caused a little bit of flapping. So we shortened it up again, but we tried to manipulate the pattern in such a way that when you turn to the side, it's not going to cause any sort of dishing or squeezing out of the lower tummy pooch. So the center front length here is 11.5 inches, and as you go to the side, it's closer to 9 inches along the princess seam and the side seam. I'll show you a little bit later in the video how the flat steel bone adjacent to the busk here was actually about half an inch to an inch longer than the busk itself. So we originally wanted to make the bottom edge of the corset a little bit shorter again, so that the center front would measure about 11 inches instead of 11.5 inches. But we had such a big stock of so many flat steel bones of this length, we couldn't just throw them away and get shorter bones like I had mentioned in my Thailand video. So once these bones are actually used up, they're going to switch to a shorter length flat steel bone adjacent to the busk, and that will make the corset a little bit shorter overall once again. And to talk to you about the circumferential measurements and the proportions of the new Hourglass silhouette, I'll let her take over. So I am also wearing a size 24, as are all of us, but you can see that in the leather corset it was closed completely in the back, whereas with this one I'm wearing it open with a gap. So you can see how the silhouettes might differ a little bit if you're wearing it a little bit larger. Keep in mind also that different types of fashion fabrics may contribute to the stiffness of the corset itself. So for the circumferential measurements of the Hourglass silhouette corsets, size 24 in the waist, obviously, the rib cage measures 30.5 inches, and the hips measure 34 inches. So the Hourglass silhouette standard length underbust corsets have a rib spring of 6.5 inches and a hip spring of 10 inches. So even though the underbust circumferential measurement is actually very similar to the 2011 pattern, you can see that the shape of the ribs is completely different. So instead of it being a very smooth, swooping silhouette, you can see that we have made it more of a convex, cupped rib shape here at the sides, and also a little bit at the side front here. Also, instead of the gentle tapering from the waist to the hips in the original pattern, you can see that it kicks out a little bit more suddenly, and the hip spring overall is much larger. One thing that I should point out for fit is that I prefer to wear my corsets closed or nearly closed in the back, whereas Timeless Trends and many other brands will actually recommend that you keep a gap in the back of your corset. So that's why I wanted to show you these two corsets, even though they're the same size, being worn closed and a little bit open, so you can see the difference. The price for the standard length underbust corset varies depending on the type of fashion fabric you choose. So for instance, this one that I'm wearing right now is on sale for $99 US. Whereas if you chose a more popular or premium fabric like the black cashmere, this is $109, just $10 more. However, if you wanted the black leather underbust, this would be $170 US because of the type of leather used and the extra time and care taken in sewing the corset. So this concludes the showcase and the comparison between the original silhouette and the Hourglass silhouette standard length underbust corsets from Timeless Trends. I hope you enjoyed it and you found it informative. If you did, please remember to click that like button down there as it helps support the channel. If you have any comments or questions about these corsets, Timeless Trends in general, or how we patterned these, feel free to leave a comment down below. I'd be happy to get back to you and answer any of your questions. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye.